Welcome to Bridging the Gap, the preparedness podcast that unites leaders from agencies, academia, and emergency response from around the world. We dive headfirst into the latest threats and hazards, sparking dynamic discussions with experts. Each episode is a thrilling journey to bridge the gap in knowledge and training, helping us all align and tackle crises head-on. Get ready to bridge the gap.
Hi, welcome everyone to this episode of Bridging the Gap. As usual, I'm Adam Montella, your host. Today, we have a very interesting topic, one that's very close to my heart. It's the Previstar Continual Preparedness System, and it was a software I was involved in 20 years ago, and now Summit has acquired the product. With me on today's podcast is Himadri Banerjee, our Chief Technology Officer. And Mark Amann, our Chief Products Officer, is also joining us today. And Mark's going to lead the conversation.
Yeah, well, I think it's a really interesting conversation. I'm really thrilled to be a part of this. And, about my role, I get to come and join Summit in the efforts to take Previstar, this software with a long history of success, Adam, that I'm going to ask you to talk about. And we're going to reintroduce it. We're going to bring it back. And we're really, really excited about it. Adam, why don't you tell us a little bit about where your journey with Previstar began? Because I think that's a really, really interesting detail.
Sure. It's kind of like the old Gillette commercial. I liked the product so much, I joined the company. I was a customer, one of the original customers of the precursor called RamSafe before we changed the name to Previstar. And RamSafe was actually born out of Oak Ridge National Labs. And I'll let Himadri talk a little bit more about that. But I was working at SBCCOM, the Soldier Biological Chemical Command. At the same time, he was over at Oak Ridge. And we developed an algorithm, my team, to predict morbidity, mortality, and some basic resource needs for chem and bio weapons of mass destruction. And Himadri and his team converted that into a piece of software from our spreadsheet, very static spreadsheet, into a very dynamic software. Fast forward a few years later, and I was in the private sector again as a consultant, and came across the software, and we used it for the UIC in Tampa Bay to kind of manage all the resources that were being acquired and distributed to all the UIC members, the training records, just the full gamut of what you would expect to manage a program. And then a year later, we had the terrible 2004 hurricane season in Florida with Ivan, Gene, Fran, and we used the software there to manage the debris and help with the FEMA reimbursement process. We got our chops in there very well over the course of those 4 hurricanes. And then a year later, Katrina hit, and we used that to manage the response to Katrina in New Orleans. Fascinating story and a great opportunity to use a software that really worked.
And you're bringing me back to 2004. I was crisscrossing the state with FEMA and going to Pensacola for landfall. Man, the debris issues we had there, some real memories. One thing I think we want to understand here, Adam, like help me. I'm coming brand new to the software. Help me understand what it is, what it can do for a UASI, because that's one of the really cool things that I'm learning right now about the software, is
Sure.
that it aids with these regional efforts. Just tell us briefly what Previstar CPS can do for you.
Yeah, briefly, it is a kind of whole life cycle emergency and incident management software program, and with modules. So there's modules for planning, organizing the planning around CPG 101. We've got response modules, so you can take your SOPs and operationalize them with notifications to the plan owners or the responsible parties. You can manage the deployment of resources and track the resources and the costs associated, more importantly, so that at the end of the day, when you demobilize, you've got a really good picture to do your project worksheet or your application for public assistance. There's an exercise module in there, and then everything is tied into a really robust GIS interface so that you don't have to have a GIS specialist on board, smaller jurisdictions especially. And we've got a very simple to use interface with GIS, so you can look for the resources, see where they're deployed, search the map for particular resources. So just imagine it as if you needed to hire 2 or 3 people, but you don't have the budget for it. The software helps fill the gap, if you will. And if you do have those positions, it makes those positions, aids them with decision making and aids them in speeding up the process of resource management, of incident management.
Well, yeah, I really like what you said about it. It really does act as 2 or 3 additional staff members that, we're not replacing somebody you already have. We're replacing those people that you don't have right now.
Right.
That with tight budgets, none of us are able to get. But I mean, I'm seeing that utility and helping it save on human resources, but then also the FEMA reimbursement process. It's really cool to learn about. But I want to go back to the beginning because it really had its roots in the energy world. CWMD and Himadri was working back at Oak Ridge, like at the turn of the millennium, and was the guy who built this thing initially. And Himadri, tell us briefly about your journey with from RamSafe all the way to Previstar, now a Summit product.
Yeah, absolutely. So, see, I kind of fell into this project right out of my college days. After my master's in ORNL, we were doing research in transportation at that time and those highways. But this project just came to us. It was a challenging project, and somehow it landed in my lap. And SBC Com asked if Oak Ridge can do this project, and I kind of took it on. And then created this algorithm just for ChemBio, for mostly biological warfare. So it's some of the biological agents that if somebody is like an aerosol thing, and then type of resources, the primary infection, secondary infection, the number of days that will take, incubation period. So that's how it started. And then we had this technology transfer program, which this actually RAMS project. The project name was RAMS, and we got it got the award for the best technology, and then that created this startup that Adam just mentioned, RamSafe, which I then transferred over from the government sector to the private sector. So it's like sort of my firstborn, you can say, because I architected it and developed it. It was like I created this thing, and then as like the whole journey, as we debuted in the Olympics in 2002 Winter Olympic Games, and then it was mostly a situational awareness tool, and it actually had even GIS back then. I mean, it was Tiger Line files and all that. So, but it was mostly situational awareness and the modeling piece that we did for the ChemBio, and then it evolved through this journey that people wanted to see it having more feature and be it more like a comprehensive incident management tool. So as we went through this cycle of hurricanes in Polk County, where all the 4 hurricanes hit, and then Katrina, so I was also part of the team that got deployed. So this made me sort of learn how disasters work at the ground level. So this software, the thing that we built, the modules we built, it's based on like learning on the field, that how what kind of difficulties the first responders and the EOCs are facing during a disaster of that complexity and that scale, and how, as we got deployed, or I personally was deployed, and some of my teammates, we learned firsthand this is how this is where the needs are going to be. This is where the problem areas are that we need to solve. And that's how Previstar was created. And of course, we started out on Microsoft platform, so we kept on that. From the technology side, we kept on it, and we grew the product from a base product to this comprehensive ERP or SAP-like tool for emergency management. So that's...
And let me interrupt you for a second, Amann, because you undersell yourself a little bit. I was a customer, right? And I had been an emergency manager at that point for about 20 years of my early career. And I used technology. And the problem I had with most emergency management softwares or incident management softwares is they were built by engineers that knew nothing about how to build a product for my workflows, who we talk to, how we talk to them, how we deploy an incident. Himadri became a subject matter expert. He's probably on par with a senior emergency manager now with his knowledge. During the 04 thing with Charlie, he rode out the hurricane with us in a sea crate on an airport tarmac with tornadoes coming overhead. So he really got in the trenches. So he's both a brilliant designer, coder, technologist, and a subject matter expert in emergency management. That's what makes this product so unique and behave differently than a lot of products. Is it was built by emergency managers for emergency managers.
No, thanks.
If you weren't going to do that about Himadri, then I was going to, Adam. I wasn't there on the tarmac, but I have been working with Himadri now for a while, and it's amazing to be working with a CTO level technologist who can speak our language and knows what we're talking about. Built by practitioners for practitioners, Adam. That's why we acquired Previstar. It had gone a little dormant, wasn't maybe being cared for the way it needed to be, but Summit acquired Previstar. Tell us why would we acquire this legacy software, and what are we trying to do with it?
Sure. Well, Summit for the previous 10 years was a traditional services industry consultant with Homeland Security, emergency management, DoD, space, doing service delivery, exercises, planning, that sort of thing. And we understood that eventually we needed to become a technology-enabled services provider. So not necessarily having, software to sell, which is great now, but using technology to develop better products for our clients that meet their needs much more quickly, that are tailored to their specific needs. So for example, what Previstar allows us to do now is if I'm building an EOP for a jurisdiction, we can build that EOP in the CEM planner module. And it takes you through that cycle of CPG 101 with your teammates and developing the plans, developing the SOPs, and resource loading them. So if you need 100 cots to open a shelter, now you need to open 10 shelters. It looks at your inventory and tells you what your shortfall might be, or if you have enough, it shows you where those resources are located. So it really kind of brought us into the 21st century like we wanted to be.
Well, really, it's all in the name of doing our best to support our customers. And since, Previstar CPS is built by practitioners and backed by the subject matter expertise of SummitET, when CPG 101 gets updated on a Friday night, we will update the software accordingly. So I think that's one of the big values that Summit brings, is that combination of the technology and our subject matter expertise. But Himadri, I want you to walk us through a little bit about the technology. We're obviously living in an age of technological explosion. What are you going to harness for us and put into CPS?
Yeah, so Mark, to give you a background, that we have always been on the cutting edge, right at that time. So starting out from client server to move to web-based solution, and then Web 2.0 to Web 3.0. Now, with machine learning and AI and the explosion of large language models like OpenAI, Amann, built by Microsoft, Google, Meta. So now this has taken off like anything. So at this point in time, initially we started out with some level of prediction with machine learning, but then that requires a lot of data. And then that requires a lot of people to go through the data, clean the data, get some synthetic data, and create some models that would predict like number of resources that you are going to require. A county is going to will require for an event like a hurricane category 4, with the prediction from NOAA, we could do that. But for that, we would need past 3 years of data of history and things like that, and then make sure the data is correct. But now with, really with OpenAI and Llama and with these large language models, what happened is if you have enterprise software like, Previstar CPS, where you can do your planning, but what happens is sometimes people don't know how to get the answer out of a system like ours. So here we are going to inject pretty much in all the modules that we have. Let's take an example as a planning. So we are going to create the module. We are going to enhance it. Right now, what you can do is you can structure it like, the CPG, as per the CPG structures, we can standardize the structure across a state. So all the counties and municipalities, they are going to follow that structure, produce a plan, and create the plan. Now with AI and large language models, we can train these models that Microsoft even has these models out there in Azure to play with. We can train it with the documents that we have already in our system and then help them generate the plans, let's say. So the counties which have minimal people that may not have many planners with them, now the software will provide that all this intelligence, like you have 100 planner on payroll with just one planner for a county. So that would immensely help the government just on the planning side. I mean, same thing with the resource management and response side. We could do a lot of things with the IAPs, pre-plan and pre-create IAPs based on certain events and things like that. So I think we are in a very exciting stage at this point to get this going, and I am really looking forward to it. I mean, I have been always a proponent of using maybe not bleeding edge because that may have side effects, but at least at the cutting edge of technology, and make sure that the software is ready for future.
End-to-end emergency management, incident management, from planning all the way through response and recovery, all powered by artificial intelligence and the intelligence of Summit exercises and training. It's an exciting time. I'm really excited to be a part of it. Adam, why don't you bring us home?
Yeah, just before that, I just wanted to make one quick point, is that, like you said, Summit has an abundance of expertise in creating exercise. I mean, we have done that as the company is built towards creating, generating, conducting after-action reporting. So these knowledge base will be a great tool for us to use with inclusion of AI. I think this is a clear winner in my. Definitely.
That's really exciting.
Well, it does. Yeah. And we're already talking and, working with some customers from the private sector with really interesting use cases that have nothing to do with traditional consequence management, let's say, but definitely in terms of managing incidents. If you have plans, people, material to manage, build, and execute a mission with, Previstar can help you with that. So, Adam, thank you for having me on this episode of Bridging the Gap. It's my first one with Summit. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's my pleasure to have both of you here. You've been friends and colleagues, both of you, for a better part of 2 decades or more with Himadri. It's exciting to have this team together because I know what our Summit and this group of folks that are on this podcast can do with this good technology. All 3 of us will be at the National Homeland Security Conference. So we're hoping to see some folks there. If you're at the conference, we'd love for you to stop by the booth and we can give you a demonstration of the product as well.
Yeah, and absolutely at the reception, if you're going to be there, stop by because we have a fun event planned. So.
Yeah, thanks, Adam, for inviting me. I mean, it was great.
And then that's it for this episode of Bridging the Gap. Again, Adam Montella, your host, and be safe and have a plan.